human progress to me is at a deeper level of solving like humans' problems, solving hunger, solving child mortality, reducing poverty. Like
you want people to look at me like some capitalist.
You said Amazon supply chain.
Human progress. I see it as making people's lives easier.
Right, like, giving them a bit of food, giving them vaccinations against measles and mumps.
No. What you're doing is ridiculous here. Human progress can be seen in two ways. Like, competition has driven those things, and that is human progress. I'm not saying that instead of not feeding people, you're emotionally manipulating the audience, really and truly.
The audience will decide. Don't tell the audience what to think. Don't tell the audience what to think.
Manipulation.
You're gonna lose them.
I've ever seen it.
Ben, you're losing them.
Hello. Welcome again to Think Twice. I'm Ben Urbano.
My name's Benz and Tef.
And thank you for joining us. If you're still here, then thank you. And if you're new, thank you too. We really appreciate you, and your support is immeasurable. So thank you for watching us. And hopefully we're providing good content, you know?
I think we are.
Yeah, I think so.
Come on.
I think so. Like, hopefully you're enjoying it. And today, I think you'll really enjoy this one, to be fair. Today, we're discussing competition. And like, obviously competitions in our lives in various different aspects, whether that's in relationships or at work, or even just when you're driving, there's competition for parking spaces sometimes. So like, the idea of competition, it runs through the whole of our lives. And we just thought it was important to sort of touch on it and talk on it. And we'll speak about it from perspective around human nature and how and whether it has driven human nature. And then we'll have a nice scenario, which I think is really interesting. And yeah, I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think obviously when we're talking about the nature of human beings and competition, sometimes it's difficult to separate what comes from the human and what comes from society and the environment that they're in. But hopefully in today's discussion, we'll scratch the surface, get into it.
To see if it's innate or it's placed upon us, basically.
100%.
All right, let's get cracking with the first question. Are humans competitive by nature?
Humans are competitive by nature.
Oh, swear!
Yeah, I knew that would surprise you.
Swear!
Yeah, genuinely, I do think humans are competitive by nature. I think humans innately have a curious, healthy competition with each other, where they basically want to place themselves and gauge how good they are at stuff by comparing themselves with other people. Now, where I do hold back is when I look at modern society and I look at the competition, some of the competition that we spoke about at the start of the show, competition in the workplace, competition in an economic sense. I think that is competition gone wrong. And I think the environment has corrupted human competition. So we're gonna get into that. And I think we're gonna disagree on that. There.
I don't know, maybe we might not, because you surprised me now.
Yeah? What do you think? Do you think competition is innate to human beings?
Yeah. So I initially begun with the idea that no, it's not. Because if you look through history, and if we like look at recent history, for example, if we look at COVID-19, and we understand how everybody sort of worked together to collaborate, basically, like the scientists that worked together, the development of the vaccines, the public health measures, the solutions, how quickly they found it. That's because everybody worked together in order to provide a solution. And that was a problem away from humanity. Does that make sense? So It wasn't a human against another human. It was...
It's an existential threat against humanity.
As if we're watching like a Marvel film and you have someone from another planet attacking humanity. It's humanity against something else, essentially. So that's when I thought, humans are cooperative. But I went back to the question and looked at the question a little bit closer. Are humans competitive by nature? And when I looked at the question in depth, I realized you have to stress test something in order to understand something, right?
Right.
So like a car, for example, when we have cars, we want to understand what the car is capable of. We high-speed test it, we off-road test it, we acceleration test, handling, maneuverability, temperatures. We test it to understand what the car's capable of. And once we understand what the car's capable of, we then label the car as something.
Right, okay.
As a type of car.
Our analysis of the car has more color.
Exactly.
Right.
And so when I looked at the question and I was like, what is the stress test for competition in humanity?
Right.
And it's opportunity.
Okay.
So amongst the big group, so when you're fighting another problem, there's not an opportunity to stand out from another. You all have to work together in order to achieve that. But when there's the opportunity to stand out from your fellow human, you realize that humans now become competitive. And therefore, once opportunity is provided, then nature comes to the fore and you realize that humans are competitive by nature.
That's fair. I think that's a fair point. And in that situation you spoke about with COVID-19, it's like all of us against the virus.
Exactly.
And in that scenario, it doesn't make sense to be competitive against the human beings. We're trying to, in a sense, compete against COVID-19. But within what you're saying, don't you feel like when you stress test the human being at the end, it's difficult to separate why, like, you look at what happens when you stress test a human being, right? Isn't it quite difficult to separate what is innate to the human and what that human has been adapted into over the course of their lifetime by their environment? How do you separate the two? It's tricky, no?
Yeah, it's more so the studies that I looked at, basically.
Right, okay.
So like when I looked at like a particular study, it was like someone would rather earn $50,000.
Yeah.
Did you read this as well?
I have read about it in the past, yeah.
Someone
It's a good one.
would rather earn $50,000 where the average salary is $25,000 than earn $100,000 where the average salary is $200,000.
Yeah.
And so it just makes it clear that people want to stand out amongst others. And another study showed that like in large groups, people weren't that competitive. It was in smaller groups that people became competitive because now they have the opportunity to stand above someone else.
Right, okay.
And so when you look at those two studies, back to your question, is it society or not? That is just behavior. Does that make sense? Like, and whether that's been put on them from a young age, I don't know. But when I start with the idea that humans are self-interested, one study found that participants were more likely to share money with another person if they believed that doing so would increase their chance of winning a prize. And so if I have my belief, I don't know whether it's confirmation bias or not, but if I have my belief that humans are born self-interested, then these three studies back it up and support the idea that they are self-interested. I have to believe that it has to be by nature.
I do hear what you're saying, but what I would push back with is that, to me, and I do this a lot, I bring the problem back to capitalism. Listen, I hold my hands up. I do it. I know myself at least. To me, the problem, especially in that scenario you painted, I think you spoke about basically two studies that talk about pay.
Yeah.
And to me, what capitalism does is it corrupts competition because capitalism tells workers where they rank in their community is based on how productive they are within the capitalist system. And how productive you are is signaled by how much you get paid. Do you see what I'm saying? So in those studies, I still think that innately, those human beings aren't born competitive, and especially not competitive about pay. I think they become competitive about pay when the capitalist system tells them, look, your value to us is determined by how productive you are in the capitalist system. So now, if I get paid 20K and you get paid 50K, it's not just that you're getting paid more than me now. It's that inherently society is telling you that you're more valuable than me.
Yeah.
And that's not a problem for me because I now feel inferior to you. It's not like we're playing a game where you just beat me in a game and we can go home afterwards and feel great about ourselves anyway, because the game doesn't mean much. In capitalism, when you get paid more than me, inherently my self-worth is diminished because society is telling me that my self-worth is tied to my capital value. Do you know what I mean? My production value. So to me, there is a little bit of competitiveness that humans have innately, but layered on top of that is all of this like complex signaling from a very young age that your value is about how productive you are. Your value is about how productive you are. Your value is about how good your grades are. Your value is about how much you contribute to the workplace, how much you earn. All that stuff is layered on top of human beings. Do you know what I'm saying?
I tend to agree with that.
Yeah.
So I think both is true though.
Yeah, 100% both is true.
you are competitive by nature.
Yeah.
Whether those studies show that, we can't confirm that.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that society enables competition as well.
That's true,
And
yeah.
it places a lot of value on your own self-worth as a result of that.
100%, yeah. It encroaches on your self-worth and basically says, look, you better produce.
In order for you to be valuable, you better produce.
You better produce. And if you don't produce, if you want to go down a career path as a kid, think about it as a kid, right? I was actually talking to my girlfriend about this. She talked to me about when she was in secondary school, how they used to treat the kids in secondary school. And she told me they had a leaderboard of every single kid in the year ranked academically from 1 to 200. Imagine what that kid who's last place is supposed to feel.
Yeah.
It's mad what you're saying to that kid about their self-worth and their value in,
that environment.
That environment. Do you know what I mean? And it's especially sinister for a kid because when you're a kid, school is kind of like your whole world.
Yeah.
So that kid's going home thinking, fuck, I am literally bottom of the bottom here.
Yeah.
Like what is...
I'm worthless.
I'm worthless.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think that continues throughout, when you go to uni, everyone's competing for like a limited amount of internship places. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's competing when they come out as a grad, they're competing for a limited amount of jobs. And unfortunately, capitalism creates and exacerbates this competition, which I think is harmful for humanity.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that.
Can I ask you a question?
Hit me.
About competition. Do you find yourself comparing yourself to your peers in order to gauge where you are?
I think you have to, because ability is relative, right?
Right.
And if you want to determine how good or how bad you are at something, you understand how good you could possibly be at something and how bad you could possibly be at something. And that's why you have to compare yourself to your peers in order to understand your actual ability.
Do you do that on the rugby pitch at training?
Yeah, I guess like, not consciously, but you probably understand that you're good because other people are worse than you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that's essentially it. Or you might understand you're bad because other people are better than you at something. And that's how you determine your own ability and therefore what you should be paid as a result.
Yeah, 100%. And there's actually a theory called social comparison theory that touches on exactly what you said. There's this guy called Leon Festinger. His observation was that human beings use that comparison to gauge where they are, where there aren't objective measures to say you are here or you are as good as X. And when people compare themselves to people who are worse than them, they feel great. And when they compare themselves upwards and they look at people that are better than them, it impacts their self-esteem. Like I was saying about a kid who's 200 out of 200, it fucks with their self-esteem bad. And I think that's a problem to me when capitalism limits the amount of resources that are available and then makes everyone compete for those limited resources. It's just such a problematic system for me.
Well, there are problems, but I do think there are benefits to competition, which we'll probably touch on in the next question. On to the second question, which is, does competition drive human progress?
No, it does not. It does not drive human progress. The way I see it, human progress has been driven by large groups of human beings who are motivated, intelligent, working together and collaborating over problems. Like you said about COVID-19, that's a great example of large groups of people, governments, private bodies, all coming together to solve a massive problem for humanity. And I think if we go back to all of the massive things that humanity has achieved over the last, say a few hundred years, it has all been achieved by large groups of people collaborating. So I would say competition does not.
Is that both like for an individual and humanity as a whole, it doesn't drive?
So I think for humanity as a whole, it doesn't drive human progress. On an individual level, it can.
Okay, let's start there. So if we start,
how do you feel about that? About society?
On a larger level, on like a sort of macro level, my answer would be yes.
Really?
It does drive human progress.
Okay.
I wanted to be where you are. I don't know, while I was feeling that way, I was feeling a way where I felt, we need each other. Like I was feeling that way yesterday. But as I did more work, I just sort of noticed that healthy competition provides innovation, which we got with, say, the Mac and the iPhone. Efficiency, which, touching on capitalism, Amazon has shown us through their supply chain. Quality, so like the quality of the cars have increased over time because customers need it, if you know what I mean. Like they need the safety, so people are going to choose cars which essentially are safer for them. Over a period of time. So that's what it's improved, and human nature has progressed as a result of that. And if we look at like competition, what competition has done as well is given us better products because it's customer focused. So like data analytics, for example. So like Netflix, look at what you watch, what people enjoy, and then produce more of what people enjoy.
But how is any of this human progress? You're talking about Apple, Amazon, cars, products. That's not human progress. That's technological progress. And it's consumerism, which is great. But human progress to me is at a deeper level of solving like humans' problems, solving hunger, solving child mortality. Do you know what I mean? Reducing poverty. Like
you want people to look at me like some capitalist or someone who's a bad person, like some villain.
You're talking about
human
Amazon.
progress.
Man, you said Amazon supply chain.
Human progress is about, I see it as making people's lives easier. That's what like progress is, to make people's lives easier.
Right, like, giving them a bit of food, giving them vaccinations against measles and mumps.
No. What you're doing is ridiculous here, because human progress can be seen in two ways. Like competition has driven those things, and that is human progress. I'm not saying that instead of not feeding people, like I'm just saying that is human progress, and that's what competition has done.
So what are you saying? I'm demonizing your position. Is that what
exactly.
That's a cop-out.
No. You're emotionally manipulating the audience, really and truly.
The audience will decide. Don't tell the audience what to think. Don't tell the audience
emotional manipulation.
You're gonna lose them.
If I've ever seen it.
Benz, you're losing them.
If I've ever seen it.
You're losing
but
them.
I'm just saying, like, there is human progress in those things. Like, to say the Mac, for example, hasn't changed the world, and those products haven't changed how you live and bettered your life and the way you are able to be productive, I think would be disingenuous.
Right, but let's wrap this point up. What's more important here? What's the more significant marker of human progress? It's the advancement of medicine. It's the advancement of solving hunger.
We do get advancement of medicine as well, through a similar sort of understanding that people want the best medicine for the cheapest prices.
No, cap. Medicine is, the advancements we've made in medicine have been funded by the taxpayers, has been funded by governments giving grants for research. That's how it's actually done.
But if we look at, say, like healthier food, the shift in how people eat has changed. And therefore, the fast food industry isn't as prominent as it once was. People now have to provide healthier options for people because of competition.
No, but what I'm saying is if we go to an even lower level than that, and we'll talk about the actual act of modern farming, which produces the food that we consume, the healthy food that we consume, I'm saying that is done by scientists. It's done by people who work in agriculture, who do the research required to find the best technique to actually extract the nutrients from the ground. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The fact like that Tesco are appealing to the consumer's demands is not going to actually fund research into improving food for human beings. Does that make sense?
I'd be speculating to say, yes, it does. But I don't think it's a ridiculous assumption to assume that if there is demand and people will benefit from supplying that demand, they will do it. And they will do it at the most efficient and cost-friendly way possible due to competition.
I disagree.
I don't think those are ridiculous assumptions.
It's not a ridiculous assumption. I just disagree that those things... I do actually think that is how capitalism works. You've described how capitalism works in some sense. But I just disagree fundamentally that these are markers of human progress. I just think...
I agree with you as well.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with the fact that like using those as markers of human progress is correct. But the question is, does competition drive human progress? And in some sense, it does. As a society, do you know what I haven't heard from you? Is why competition doesn't.
I'm getting there now.
Okay, that's what I'm
So I think what competition in the capitalist sense does is that it exacerbates companies' desires to make quick profits. So, okay, there's a supply and demand element to this. The demand comes from the consumer. But number one, the capitalist can affect consumer demand, right? If you market stuff a certain way, you can affect consumer demand anyway. So you can hijack that consumer relationship. Number two, yes, they will fulfill the demand, but they'll do so in the most profitable way. And that profit is always short term. It's always where can we find the money for the next year's annual accounts? Not how can we improve humanity's plot for the next 20 years? How can we improve humanity's plot for the next 100 years? And
it sounds like you have some doubt in humanity, as if they were like born self-interested or something.
No, what I'm saying is, I don't have doubt in humanity. I think humanity is corrupted by their environment.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay.
And what I'm saying is, capitalists, the bosses of Tesco can manipulate their consumers to want to buy the frozen food thing that creates the most profit. That happens all the time.
I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like, but often when we have these discussions, what we find is that you maybe understand or respect the plight of humanity a little bit more, whilst I'm more focused on actual competition. Is competition the problem? Do you understand what I mean? And I don't think competition is the actual problem. What you're suggesting is the problem is how people interact with competition and what it does to their integrity.
Well,
and does to them as people.
I get what you're saying, but you started off this question talking about how competition basically increases innovation in a capitalist sense, right? Companies innovate because of the competition that they experience with each other.
Well, that's one aspect to it. I don't want to be pigeonholed in that, even though you've tried to.
Oh my God. I just said what you said. Back to you.
No. I'm just saying, I use those as examples.
No, hold up, Benz. If I say what you said to me, back to you, and suddenly you're getting pigeonholed. Yeah, and there's audio.
But what I'm saying is, if you innovate, it's not solely just for a financial purpose. Because what we understand, as we spoke about in the last question, is that people want to stand above others. That's what we kind of spoke about. So like, if there was no profit to it, say people didn't benefit from it and we were creating the same product, I would want my product to be better than yours. That's what we've sort of noticed, regardless, irrespective of profit. That's what I'm saying. That's why I said I didn't want to be pigeonholed in that.
Yeah, I get that. The question is, does that competition drive human progress? And what I'm trying to say is that competition, in a capitalist sense, as in, I want my company to produce a better product. I want my company to make more profits, to be able to reinvest back into the company and to grow bigger, right? That produces short-term thinking. That's my point here. And that short-term thinking, it doesn't progress humanity. It just gets the numbers up for the next annual accounts.
Don't know if I fully agree with that either.
Really?
Well, because...
So do you think Tesco are interested in the plight of humanity?
If we use Tesco as an example, then yeah, you might be correct.
Let's talk about individual progress here.
Yeah.
Does competition serve individual progress?
I think so.
Yeah?
There was 3 parts that I thought about, which was motivation, personal growth, and social bonds. And that's what competition you get from competition.
Okay.
And then, because I initially begun with like, surely competition doesn't, like it can bring on stress and anxiety, self-worth issues, as we've mentioned.
Yeah.
It can cause like relationships damage.
Yeah.
But what I realized is that's all from just intense, unhealthy competition.
Right.
That isn't from good competition. And from good competition, what you get is, as I mentioned, motivation, personal growth, and good social bonds.
What in your eyes changes it from good competition to bad competition? What makes it bad and unhealthy?
There's too much emphasis upon it.
Right, okay.
Once you place a great amount of emphasis upon competition, you essentially fall into that category in which it becomes negative for you.
100%. And I think it goes back to what we're talking about in the first segment, which is when your entire self-worth is wrapped up in the competition, when you lose, it's fucking devastating. Do you know what I mean?
I'm assuming you agree with me.
I agree with you. Yeah. I agree with you 100%. I think it's a very good point, well made. The one thing I would push back on is the relationships though, because I don't think competition necessarily, even when it's healthy, I don't think it improves your relationships. Like, I don't think that's one thing that it gives you. How does it improve your relationships to you? Is it because you're...
Oh, I wasn't saying that it improves your relationships. I was just saying, like, to be fair, any type of competition would, result in damage relationships.
Yeah, that's what I would imagine. Because obviously you're competing with one another, right? So it's difficult. Going back to that scenario where there's 200 kids in a class, the guy who's 100th out of 200 is not gonna collaborate with the guy who's 90th because the guy's 90th is like, I don't want him to leapfrog me. Do you know what I mean? So it's quite difficult, I think.
To be fair, like, familial competition isn't too bad. Like, sibling rivalry, etc., has proven to be beneficial for people.
I don't know if it's like...
Yeah, personally, I don't probably... That's probably why my initial response to that is, no, it's not beneficial because
how did your rivalry with your brothers play out? Was it like sports, academic?
I wouldn't say we really had like rivalries, to be honest. I think when you're like quite different as people, you don't have those rivalries as much. Whilst like other people had a lot of sibling rivalries, which I think has benefited a lot of younger siblings. If I remember correctly, I think it's something around younger siblings doing really well as a result. There is a study that suggests that. And so in that sense, I'd imagine that competition in that relationship wouldn't actually be harmful.
Yeah, and I think you can always pull it back. Like, you can always recover the excesses of a competition when you're in a family environment. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Your parents are there, you've got other siblings there, so you can always patch things
That right there was the essence to think twice.
Yeah.
I thought something, we discussed it, and I changed my mind.
I love that. That's good.
All right, on to the final segment, which is the dilemma segment. So hear us. You work in software sales as a mid-level team member. You get on well with your colleagues and have enjoyed your time at the company. But your new manager fosters a competitive environment where you're pitted against each other to achieve high sales targets and secure promotions. One day you discover that a colleague on your team, who is also a friend, has been struggling to meet aggressive sales quotas. You have access to a client list that could significantly boost both your friends and your own sales figures. However, sharing that list would put you at risk of not meeting your personal targets and potentially harm your chances of promotion. Do you share that list?
Yes, I share the list. He's my friend, and this manager is trying to fuck up the vibe that we've got in our team. So part of me wants to give the list to help my friend, and part of me wants to do it to help recover the environment that this manager's messing up. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you give the list?
I've gone back and forth on it.
Oh no. Where are you at right now?
I don't think you can.
What?
To be fair.
You can, you're just choosing not to, because you're wronging.
To be fair, the dilemma's changed just slightly. And as I'm reading it back,
okay.
Just because like, it says it ruins your chance of promotion. And yeah, if I'm not gonna get a promotion, that's absolutely fine.
Right.
I'll share the list. But now if I'm at risk in my job, do I share the list? That's how I've always seen it.
Okay.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've always seen that as because essentially we write the dilemmas ourselves and we go off and then sometimes refine it. And I think we refined this one quite late. And, and if it's promotion, yeah, I give them the list. Like, I'm a good geezer. But now, if your job is at risk, if you fail to meet your sales targets, do you give them the list?
If my whole job's at risk?
Your job's at risk, yeah. Well, if you fail to meet the sales target, you're at risk. You risk everything by giving him the list, and now your job's at risk once you give him the list, because you may be fine. Do you get what I mean? Like, you may be absolutely fine.
I think I would struggle to share the list. I would really struggle to share the list. But I can help him in other ways. Because the list, I imagine in sales, like the list is a list of contacts, people to call who could potentially buy the product and contribute to my sales figures. But I can help him in other ways, right?
Yeah.
I can help him with some tips. Like he's struggling, there's something that I might be able to help him with. I might be able to get him some resources from elsewhere in the company. But if my whole job's, how can I go back to my wife?
That's basically it. So when I was looking through this, I was like, I have responsibilities.
Yeah.
Like if God forbid I don't sell anything, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I have to go back to feed my children, and I can't do that because I gave my man some list. What if that guy was one of your best friends?
If he's one of my best friends, we'll sit down and have a chat now. Like,
would you share that?
We're gonna divvy up the list. We're gonna be far more strategic with it because we're friends.
Yeah, you would share.
I'm given the list.
Yeah.
But obviously, my friend is also looking out for me as well, and we have that mutual understanding. So he might take 7 out of the 10 names because he's struggling, but he will leave me free. Do you know what I mean? We can figure it out. Some way that I can keep my job and he can keep his. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I think in the other scenario, it's like, okay, it's tough. What if I give him the list and he just takes it all?
What if the promotion was a 2 times jump in salary?
I'll be real, I'll still share the list. Because now it's not like survival. And now I'm just trying to thrive, innit? I've got my salary, I'm making a salary with my job. I still have my job, right? It's not a matter of my kids going hungry. It's not a matter of, a few more holidays.
So say like you're earning about £75,000 and the promotion jumps you to 150. There's no fucking way I'm sharing this. There is no fucking way.
Oh my God.
There is no way on earth I am sharing that list.
Really? I think I would share the list. Because we're friends still,
Yeah, we're cool. Like, we're cool, but we're colleague cool.
Yeah. I don't know.
Bro, if my salary jumps from 75 to 150, there's no way on earth I would.
But if we contextualize this, right? Him not getting the list, he's at risk still, right? He's my friend, he's at risk. I want him to still have his job. I want him to have like a safety net. For me, it's going from 75 to 150. For him, it's going from 75 to 0. That's catastrophic for him. My life will still be the same. Well, it will improve quite a bit, but like, I'll still be able to feed my kids. I'll still be able to pay the mortgage. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, of course, I get all of that.
Plus, I can get the promotion next year or the year after. It's not gone, right?
But bro, it's the same way like he can get another job. Like,
no, that's harsh. That's harsh.
Because he can figure out a way, bro. You genuinely can't do that.
I think you can. I think you definitely can. 75 bags is a lot of money,
Nah, you're saying this like, but would you actually do that? Like real talk.
I think sat here today, I can.
Bro, I'm on my way to, like, there's a massive jump between the two. That's why I particularly chose those numbers.
I know.
There's a huge jump between that, like, in quality of living.
I still think, though, 75K, bro, you're on the top 8% of earners in the UK.
Yeah, you're still good. You're not as good as £150,000, bro.
You can get that promotion at any time you want. Well, next year after that, right? You can get that promotion.
You see the same way you were like, oh yeah, you can't, and I was similar, like, you can't go back and you've lost your job, etc., etc. I don't know if I could look like people I know struggling in the eye that I care about, saying I turned down £75,000.
People that are struggling, where have they come from?
Well, like, you have family, like, do you know what I mean? I don't know if everyone in your family is earning good amounts of money.
Yeah.
But like people that then maybe you're not responsible for, but you care about.
Yeah. Okay, I see what you mean,
That, you turn down that money.
That you can help with that extra cash.
Precisely. I don't know. Maybe that's you, innit?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. It's definitely more difficult than I made out.
Yeah.
I'll definitely give you that. Sometimes, I sit in this chair and I'll just say something with vim and confidence.
Yeah.
But deep down in my heart, there's torment. I know if my missus is watching this right now, she'll be dashing off all the There's no way she's having that.
Well,
God.
that's us.
That's a good one.
That's good. That's good. Thank you for joining us. However you're watching, however you're listening. We see you soon. Much love.
Take care. See you next week. Actually, wait, give me 1 sec. Let me just reconnect my phone. Have I lost you? Listen,
And not do that.
When I wrote my notes, I did think, look, a lot of this is not getting. We have to get there at some point, innit? Okay, good.
I'm reloading.